Another thing I noticed with this story is you've got 47 chapters and 321 pages, as well as an epilogue. So how do you structure your chapters? When do you decide it's time for a chapter break? 'Cause I assume that that's intentional to keep it frequent breaks, and also to give your reader the feeling of accomplishment that they've got a lot of chapters behind them.
And
How
also
do
the
you decide how
cliffhanger.
to do that?
Also the cliffhangers, because that's a big thing. When I was working on The Maddle's Daughter, my son was in third grade reading a lot of middle grade fiction, and I read aloud so many drafts to him, and he was incredibly helpful. Third grade's a great age. I love those kids, and he was wildly enthusiastic about this book, and able, but just really solid and critical, which was perfect. I needed that, and having that from somebody who was my readership, right there in the house, telling me this is boring, this makes no sense, this is good, this is exciting. And he taught me how to make cliffhanger chapter endings, and to how to get that sense of when the chapter should stop too. You're reading along and it's satisfying, but you reach a point where suddenly something's about to happen. You hold your breath, and that's, boom, I stop the chapter. Because then my son would say, keep reading, when I did that. And so I'd have to go on to the next chapter. That was my intention, to inspire that reaction in him. So we would discuss, even with some chapters, where I put the break. And I think I just developed a sense of that. Of sometimes I cut it too close, and sometimes I let it extend too long, but I always go back in the revisions and find those. And that's why my chapters are short, just to have that tense moment. I also try not to have chapters in my Word file that are more than 8 pages, if possible, just because it starts getting long, and really long chapters, usually for my kind of fiction, fast-paced adventure fiction, if it gets beyond 8 pages, it's baggy, and I need to cut something. I don't have enough going on. There's too much talking, or too much description, or empty action. That's possible too. I need to have something that fills it out properly, without loading on too much else.
So in the weeds follow-up, I know readers or writers who are listening to us want to know, 8 pages, what's the word count for the novel? And then also how are those pages set up? Are we talking double space, single space? What kind of font?
Sure. Yeah, they're double spaced pages. Sometimes I go up to 12, but usually if I go up to 12, I have to have a really good reason for that. I don't have many chapters that are that long, and 4 or 5 pages is about right to have a lot of action. Yeah, sometimes I go to 12. So, gosh, probably 4,000 words, maybe. I don't know. The full, my books are 10 to, it's hard to think, because for each revision, maybe 55, I aim for 55,000 words for the whole manuscript in my first draft most of the time. 60 at the most. I think Secret of the Shadow Beasts was 70 to start, and I trimmed it down. I think it ended up in the mid 60s. And it's, yeah. It feels like it actually feels like it's the same length as my other books, because it's the same size. But the other books have an extensive author note about the historical period, and then also a glossary. So that adds a lot of pages to those, which makes them seem longer. But Secret of the Shadow Beast is a bit longer than the others, certainly with the epilogue, which is, I think it's just, let's see, I think it's just a few. It's interesting because it looks like it's always shorter in, yeah, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, 5 pages. The epilogue.
And you're not worried when you're seeing that first draft, like, oh, I'm at 70 or I'm at 80. That's fine, because I know that there's lots of stuff that I can go through and cut. Unfortunately, if a home book was brilliant and perfect the first time,
I have it in my school presentation. Oh, go ahead.
I said, when am I going to get to take divine dictation? One draft and done. That would be perfect.
Oh gosh. My school presentation, I have a picture of a massive stack of manuscript pages, and it's 700 pages. And I tell people, this is what I threw away to write The Mad Wolf's Daughter for the many, many, many drafts. I figured that out one day of how many pages I discarded in total, and 700, which might be a little bit of an exaggeration, but not by much, because I do tend to rewrite a lot, even though the bones are still there, at least for my first book. I think Margaret Atwood says there's no guarantee that you will get better as you write. I think I have got better. I think, just working with great readers and great editors, and reading a lot and paying attention to what I read and paying attention to what I write, I think I have got better. And I know I wrote fewer drafts, fewer completely, well, yeah, I wrote 3 for Secret of the Shadow Beasts. I don't know how many I wrote for The Mad Wolf's Daughter, but that was my first book, so I was figuring it out. My second middle grade, I wrote a different one before that, which who knows, maybe I'll go back to that one day, but it's very problematic.
I make that joke taking divine dictation, although it occurred to me if that actually happened, I would say, quiet, God, I'm trying to write. I need to focus.
You're going to have to revise that anyway, because revision is the divine moment. Revision is the discovery.